Hi, I'm Bowen Yang, and welcome to Search Party, the podcast, brought to you by iHeartRadio and HBO Max. Think of this as an audio companion to the dark comedy series that you can't help but binge watch. The theme of today's podcast is fear and rage. We've got a twofer, that's right. But don't worry, we're all in this together. To discuss this with me, I have two wonderful guests, Starlee Kine, a writer on the show, who you might also know from her podcasts, Mystery Show and Election Profit Makers, as well as my Saturday Night Live castmate and classmate, Chloe Fineman, who also plays the conservative talk show host, Charlie Reeny, on Search Party. Let's hope this doesn't end with one of us screaming into their pillow. Let's go. Hi, hello.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
The theme of today's episode is fear and rage. So I just want to kick things off by going around. I'm going to ask everyone, including myself, what was the last thing you were afraid of or angry of? I think I was, anytime lately that I've been like putting the lock, like, you know, that little bar lock, like against, like on your door, you turn that. Mm-hmm. Anytime I've been doing that, like I see the image flash before me of like someone breaking in at like 4 a.m. to try to kill me. I don't know if I'm afraid of that, but it's just like, I picture it anytime I do the thing.
Is that a pandemic fear, or you've always felt that way when you slid that lock?
I think I've always felt that way, but since the pandemic, the image has become more pronounced. Does that make sense? I don't know why.
Yeah. Do you see the person? Do they can you get a picture of them? Or just faceless killer?
Faceless. It's the faceless, featureless. I think they're wearing like a leather jacket, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so that's mine. Starlee, we'll start with you if you have something in mind.
What have I been afraid of? I mean, I'm in such, it's all so scary.
Yeah.
That it's become, I actually have felt very calm lately because the fear is so much greater than any particular thing.
It's a big tent of fear.
Yeah, that's kind of like, it's a tent of fear it's kind of like the Temple Grandin machine that when they send the animals into the slaughter, it's a hug machine. So the fear is hugging me and making me calm. It's hugging me calm.
Interesting. Very good.
And I tend to not have fear. I tend to not be afraid of what people are afraid of. Like I tend not to be afraid of. Like I tend not
people
to be
breaking in.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. Like with the locks and all that, I'm very casual because my fear is always just so much like I'm gonna end up alone forever, stuff like that. That trumps the practical fears. Yeah. And now there's a big. Sure. And now, like we said, the big practical fear has trumped any minor practical fears.
It's long-term personal fears, which are sometimes the most terrifying of all.
Yeah, human-based fears.
Human-based fears, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Chloe, what about you?
Mine is superficial, but it's the first thing that came to mind. DMing celebrities.
Which, okay, that you are doing the outreach or that they are starting with you?
Either one. Like tagging someone, like it's all caps, like the language I use is terrible. I remember John Early did his 73 questions and I think I wrote like, take me to heaven or like something so stupid. And he was just like, what? And then I realized I sound insane and it's a lot of like, wow, like gagged. And then like, yeah, like I got Drew Barrymore tagged something.
Congratulations.
And I didn't know. That was a big, and I get panicked and I don't know what to say. And
of course.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a particular gift to be able to know what to do with the celebrity DMs. Some people
you're
really
good at talking.
But I'm not good with the celebrity DMs. I totally panic and want it to. I'm so excited that it's happening that I need to kill it.
There's no model for it. Like there's no right way to do it. Because this is a very new thing in terms of the access that we all have now, or that other people have, that whatever, like across the board. It's like, of course it's a scary thing. Or of course it's like, it will elicit these responses of like, like.
Yeah. Drew Barrymore, I was like, I use Flower Beauty. Like and then she like never responded. There's no way to respond to like, love your lip gloss.
Wow.
It's because they hold all the power. And so, and it's always a hard position to navigate a lopsided power dynamic.
Yeah.
And the world we live in where like anything you say on the internet can just destroy you forever. And how about you do that by DMing your hero?
Sure. I want to ask a show-related question. So we're bundling fear and rage thematically in this episode, but I feel like on Search Party, they are often paired with each other anyway. And so it feels like a very natural place for them to share that space. Why, for both of you, do they stem from the same place probably on the show?
I think Search Party's characters operate at a very high pitch at all times. And that's the unifying tone. There's like an energy to that. And fear and rage are at that pitch.
Yes.
Like, you're never just moving neutrally through the world if you're a Search Party character.
No. So that's the frequency that they're at the whole time.
At a minimum.
At a minimum. So then what's like the ceiling above? Like I'm having trouble like.
Well, sometimes it tips over to murder.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Sure.
They're almost murdering someone at all times.
And it's not even exclusive to them. It's like you have Cole Skull's character wanting to, kidnap or whatever. Okay, this is very interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like the rawness of the human psyche is every character. The reason all the characters are like that is because it's like they've all walked into the world exposed. And so we're seeing the psyche behind the outward appearance that the Search Party has like peeled back.
Yeah. I feel like I went to college with someone who reminded me a lot of Charlie, and she was from the South. And I remember we were like taking the escalator up to Barnes and Noble's on 14th Street. And she was like, my family doesn't lose. Like, we only win. And it was such a weird way of like doing stuff. And then I think for Charlie, it's like her rage comes from like, she cannot lose. And like anything that like triggers losing just like sets her off. Cause this girl did that. She would just explode.
My jaw's on the floor. My family doesn't lose.
She would eat. She would brag about times that she only ate cheese when she was on Atkins. She was like, "Oh yeah, we'd go to the country club and they would just serve me hot cheese."
Hot cheese?
Just a plate of hot
cheese.
Like bowls? No, just like a slice of like American cheddar, but it would be like a little melted on a plate, and like that was like a real pleasure for her doing that Atkins diet.
Get stuck on your finger.
The plate served as a slice of bread.
Yeah, the plate is the bread.
Yeah.
In place of, you couldn't have the carbs, so you had to have a plate.
She was part of a group that cheated together in high school, which like I would, if I did that, and I'm sure I've cheated here and there, I didn't like brag about it.
No. Or like form like some sort of like herd mentality around it.
An alliance.
An alliance, they would each go in at different times and like change their grades. It was wild.
Sure. Yeah. Oh my God. Interesting. Wow. I mean, like, it's like all these illicit activities that like bind these people together, which I feel like is basically what the show is. I mean, the big question around fear and rage, I think the locus of fear and rage sort of meeting at the same point and intersecting at the same moment is with Keith's murder. Do we think that Dory was afraid of Keith in that he might have been able to hurt her? And was her reaction justified? Which is basically to ask, did she react out of fear or rage or both? And is that okay?
And would she then have manipulated Drew to kill him?
Right.
Because he did the blow.
He did the blow.
Yeah.
But like Dory was in some state of danger or duress or whatever. Right.
Right. But if there was some part of Dory that felt like she had to cover up her tracks for what she had done by taking care of Keith. Because like Dory also lives in such a state of self-denial.
Yeah.
That you could see Dory operating, like a part of Dory operating where she knew Keith had to die, but never admitting it to herself or anyone else.
But she was like fearing for her life, though. I mean, that's kind of like where it all came from.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I think she feared for her life and then he came for her. But I could see Dory also kind of being like, I need to take care of this and keep the story going. We talked a lot in the room about how Dory really feels committed to the story because Dory starts out as someone who doesn't have a purpose. And then once she starts looking for Chantal, she finds a sense of purpose. And then once you find her, though, that purpose ends. You have to do whatever it takes to keep the purpose alive.
Yeah.
And Dory increasingly makes decisions based on that, especially in season 3, where she makes this very active decision to make things harder for herself.
Sure. So in that moment, you think she could have manufactured some sense of danger or endangerment.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was very scary in that first season. I mean, I think he definitely seemed like scary, but I feel like you could, I'm not saying that's the intention of that scene, but I could see, knowing everything that we know about Dory now, where because Drew's the one who actually does it. Drew is the one who actually kills Keith.
Right.
I could see Dory being committed to the drama of it, even in that moment.
Right, because she does keep track of that sequence of events, especially in season 3 when Drew's like, do you remember this weapon? And she's like, I never touched it. That was you. Like, I'm innocent. Like, it is an actual just manipulation, like what you said. It's just pure.
I mean, it's definitely her fault. She's the one who got them all into this. Like, from the very beginning, everything Dory has done has led to everyone getting involved and then Keith dying. And she knows that.
Right.
Even when, it's in her best interest to make Keith the bad guy.
Yes. Well, then on that note, was Drew justified in attacking Keith?
Yeah, I think Drew just was trying to protect Dory.
Yeah.
Which is always Drew's downfall, that he wants to protect Dory.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. And that there's a fear that Dory is kind of thrown into this compromising position at all times, which she is. Well, now I just can't stop thinking about this thing where all the characters in the world of Search Party are at this high pitch. Yeah, I think that's so true.
It's funny, like in the room, I feel like before we've come up with the scene, the feeling is always a scream. They'll cite scenes where people are screaming at each other, or even like make the sound of like, and that's even before a scene is conceptualized or conceived of.
Wow.
Sure.
You can tangibly feel the pitch while constructing the show.
Wow. Speaking of pitch and volume, I feel like Charlie Reeny, this character that Chloe plays, is this fun displacement of that pitch and that volume into this like really, really bizarre, distorted, dissociative world, which is like conservative television, news television. First of all, Chloe, talk to us, describe the character of Charlie Reeny to everybody.
Loosely based on somebody whose name rhymes with Homie Warren.
Glommy Baron? Yeah.
Glommy Baron, yeah. Who was really popping off at the time. And I was so obsessed with Gami Garin. I still am, to be honest.
She's still, obsession worthy, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, she is. She recently, because all I do is watch my phone, had this incredible IG video for no reason. No one asked for it, where she's talking about how that we need to end the pussification of men.
I think I know what she means.
She's like, I am a 10. All my girlfriends are 10s. We are 10s. And there are pussy men who, guess what? And then she lists out a rule of 5 rules for men to live. I'm like, what man is going to watch this? It's so funny. It's so funny. And I met her once. That was like part of it.
You did?
I did. Gami appeared in Silver Lake in front of Intelligentsia to interview hipsters, or she was like trying to catch liberals. So she and her like team of 2 other film guys, she was just standing on the corner of Sunset, like right
Sunset,
by,
yeah.
Yeah. And I was taking a jog, and then there she was, and they were like, do you want to talk to Gami? And I said, hell yeah. And again, it was like my fear of celebrities. I jumbled.
I can't believe you just saw her in the wild. I would have thought, I can't believe you were jogging by. You were the hipster that she was seeking.
Yeah, I was. And she was also like, it was just like a doll, so much makeup, hair extensions, like the lashes. She was trying to like show that she was cool. And she also like, not that she was pro-abortion, but like we talked about that. And then I awkwardly was like, what do you think about butt stuff?
You asked her?
I did. I asked Tommy her thoughts on butt stuff.
And then what did she say?
She kind of like froze and like really, because she's a professional, just kind of swiveled it in a different direction.
Well, what was it like playing this analogous version of this person, and who, I mean, God, it's so funny. All my friends are 10s and my family doesn't lose is basically the same expression, right? It's like the people that I am with are like me, and we are exceptional. We are superlative. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, superlative.
It's exactly it. Yeah, we are right.
But there's a rage in that expression where you're like, this is my deal.
And there's fear to it, because fear that you're not
and fear
that you're not going to win.
Totally.
I mean, what is that like to write and to play for both of you? Like it has to be at least somewhat exhausting if you have to like channel that in some way and then like transmute it into a performance, or like the precise choice of words in a script. Like, was that exhausting for either of you?
It doesn't. I find writing for Search Party very energizing, because I think of the mania that is involved in the world of it. There's just a lot of energy that fills the room and the process.
Sure.
Like the perfect choice of words is more the voice pass that happens to the show to get it that Search Party tone. But I do think because of that pitch that Search Party operates from, it has this life force that is actually the opposite of exhausting. It just is its own living feeling.
Yeah. And I think that makes it easier to act, like, and enjoyable. Like, what I like about Charlie that I don't have in myself is just like, this is my opinion and I'm sticking to it. And like, I go through the world, like, it's so hard for me to form an actual opinion because I'm constantly being like, oh, that was wrong. And, oh, I don't know. And especially now, like, yeah, but for somebody just to be like, this is my decision, this is where I'm at. And it is energizing to just be a confident person, even if they're wrong.
I think Search Party does a really good job with when Search Party is casting, even though the tone of Search Party is so consistent and you can tell the Search Party tone, it's not like everybody talks like each other.
No.
Like Charlie was created for Chloe. So
right.
It's not Chloe having to conform to a character. It's just like, it's a collaboration. And that happens a lot on the show where there's someone in mind and then the character is birthed from who the actual person is and how that person will take on that character.
Well, that just speaks to how lush and detailed. I don't know if those are the right words, but it's every detail is filled with the pitch, or it's like Starlee, you're talking about tone so much, which just kind of strengthens the whole like ethos of the show.
Yeah.
Which I think you can really see. Let's play this clip of Charlie and Elliot arguing. It sort of builds up to this volley of insults, and then it almost feels sort of, dare I say, and we might cut this out, it feels sort of orgasmic. It feels like it's this like
climaxes.
Consummation of this tension.
Yep.
Totally. I think they both do.
You thin-lipped, baby-killing, underfunded pride parade!
You book-burning gas chamber with penis envy!
Commie!
Fascist!
Faggot!
Whore!
Well, that's all the time we have today on Open Fire with Charlie Reeny. I'm Charlie Reeny, reminding you that the Second Amendment is never going away.
And we're out.
That was incredible.
That's the most fun I've ever had in my life.
You're a genius.
No. You are a genius.
Perfect. Wow. How many takes was that? Do you remember? I mean, or setups or whatever.
Definitely like more than 4.
And that can like wear on you.
Yeah. But I really felt like we were doing scene study, and it was like Meisner technique. And then just we both were like at NYU the same time. And so we had like a few people that we knew and found cringy. Like, so we just talked about Tish and like laughed and then would go into that.
Perfect. And even that scene, I think there is a layer of performance to it. I mean, it is a performance, and they drop the pretense, and then they're like, wow, that was incredible. I mean, how much of Charlie's politics is performed? How much of it is this like is purely external?
I think a lot of it is. I think, and I think in the same way as Gami Garin, like I think that they're actually probably pretty liberal. But it's like, oh, I get attention if I think this way, and I get like views and followers if I am like outlandish. And so they kind of like lean into that for attention. I feel like a lot of it's attention seeking, personally.
Sure. But like even beyond attention, because attention is something that you get. The transaction of getting attention is I do something, I get attention. But with what Charlie does is she adds this sort of layer of rage on it. And the transaction there is I get angry so that you can get angry too when you watch me. It's a different currency. And I think Charlie is very aware of tapping into that.
I think she gets off on it.
She does. She climaxes.
She climaxes.
She's found what she's good at.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's kind of like, I mean, she's in a more enviable position than Dory, who doesn't know that her path. And I think it's why like Elliot is so excited when he meets Charlie, because he is also good at it. And they're so compatible. And there's a relief in giving into what you excel at.
After this quick break, we'll continue discussing the themes of fear and rage in the context of Search Party with our guests, Starlee Kine and Chloe Fineman. Keep listening. Talk about this concept of like excelling at rage. There's an aptitude or there's a proficiency around being angry. And like Charlie has learned that, whereas Dory has not, and it's led her into these really dark, terrible things.
Yeah. And Charlie gets it all out by the performance. Like she gets to scream. And then at the second is over, she's, after the orgasm happens, she gets to come down and live her life. Dory now has a death count of 2 on her hands. And she's not going around screaming like that. So like, it's actually like in Charlie's case, the performance is freeing her and probably making her, well, you could have a debate about which one's the bigger threat to society, Charlie or Dory. Dory is killing specific people, but if Charlie's like the equivalent of Fox News, that takes a higher toll on the toxicity that you release into society.
Sure.
But they both definitely have rage in them and are releasing it in very opposite ways.
Sure.
But Dory's also doing a performance. Like everything about Dory is a performance.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know who she is. Her identity has not been locked.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do also feel like that's such a good thing or that I find so interesting about Fox News, and like it's red and like they're all angry because like we're in such a, I don't know, like their audience is like fearful and panicked, and they kind of feel soothed by like an angry person somehow. Like, someone's like, they're wrong. And you're like, oh, okay.
It's such a relief. It's such a relief to be able to pinpoint, to decide someone's wrong, to just eliminate that option of someone that you feel threatened that you're not.
Well, it's this idea of like emotional punditry. It's like, I want to make you feel something, and that's why you're loyal to this point of view that we're broadcasting every hour of every day.
But it's a choice to make it the what you're feeling. I want to make you feel rage. Because you could also make them feel, you could also be Mr. Rogers and make them feel empathy.
Nice.
But it's trickier.
Yeah.
And the rage is coupled with fear in that way, where it's like, I want to stoke fear in order to get you angry.
Yeah.
And Starlee, with what you're saying, it's but the comparison between Dory and Charlie is very interesting. They both have this exhaust valve in terms of letting this fear out, or letting all this sort of this clenched psyche, that pitch out. They have this one valve for that to escape. Charlie has control over that valve. She can loosen it or tighten it at her own control. Dory doesn't, and then it leads to her murdering people.
And dragging her friends into things, and just like kind of leaving this trail of destruction in her wake. Because you're right, she has no control of it at all. Because she's lying to herself.
Right.
Totally.
Like, I don't feel like Charlie is at the point where she's lying to herself.
Yeah.
She seems pretty honest about what she's doing, about her duplicity.
Yeah.
Totally.
But I also think she's one of those people who like, they don't question a ton of stuff. Like, it's like she's like reading a bunch of liberal point of views. I feel like she's decidedly has like a narrow kind of tunnel vision that like is easy. It's like easier to operate your life if you're like, these are the facts. This is what I know. And like, I'm just going to gun through life.
Totally.
For sure. You eliminate so many options.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Chloe, it's like, I feel like you are not an angry person. And you, based on what you're saying, you don't sort of compartmentalize your thoughts in the same way that Charlie does. Like, I mean, what was that like to prepare for that role?
Well, preparing for her was first of all, exciting because I was like, can I get hair extensions? And they were like, yes. And I was like, can I get a spray tan? And Charles was like, go for it. So like, it was the best kind of cosplay. Yeah, I got like a huge spray tan. I was orange for a couple days. It like got all over everything.
Yes.
The hair extensions were.
I remember you walking across, I was on set that day, and I remember Chloe walking across set, and I was sitting next to Charles, and he was like, that gorgeous woman. Like he had never found you more beautiful.
Well, that was what's so fun. Yeah, like how I remember like walking around Murray Hill with my extensions and my tan and men just like winking. And it was like, whoa, this is a whole other world of like,
yeah.
And people did find it hot. You know, it had a Britney kind of just early 2000s.
Yes.
Sure.
So yeah, I felt like putting on the armor, which was exciting. The armor of like, I don't know, being alluring in some kind of way. And I always just like, I love like Republic. I like to play them. I like playing like opinionated people.
Yeah. Republicans are some Republicans are very fun performers.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, like when the ones who are good at it, the ones who are the worst inside their souls are often really entertaining to watch. I mean, even Trump is he's a performer.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I understand why that would be fun.
What I love in that clip that we just showed, and if our listeners will watch it back, it's as the cameras dump out to commercial after Charlie says the Second Amendment is never going away, and then the music plays, and then Chloe just like smiles to camera, mugs to camera, and then there's that like a little head tilt. It's like, it's perfect. It's this like subtle little move where it is like, oh right, she's like a doll. She's like this like prop. I mean, you know, to be redundant.
I definitely have done that tilt. Like I am an older sister, and we've had so many sister fights, and I think as a kid, if I like got my way, I'd like turn to my sister like, fuck you.
I'm observing that in Zooms, like when I'm watching myself, I'm like, oh, my head is naturally
tilted.
I also want to talk about Dory's relationship with fear changing, or just sort of having these different configurations, because in season 3, when she decides to plead innocent and not plead self-defense, it seems like she's undaunted throughout the rest of the season. Everyone's like going wild. Like, why did you do that? Like, self-defense is would actually sort of be the best option.
Answer, yeah.
Totally. And then, but she just seems kind of fearless in the way that she's not nervous that she will lose, I would say.
I think it's Dory coming into herself is what that decision is. And she wants to take control of her life in a way that she hasn't been for the entire show, the entire Dory that we've been watching over the course of the show. I really think it's her discovering what she's good at.
Yeah.
It trumps all the fear she would have of going to jail. She doesn't believe she's going to go to jail.
Right.
She finally has figured out that she's got a knack for something. And I do think her being on trial in season 3 is supposed to be a representation of that time in a millennial's life. Like it's like when you're starting to take your life more seriously and make grown-up choices. It's just through the warped lens of Search Party.
Right.
Pleading not guilty is a version of a grown-up decision. So was killing April.
Was a grown-up decision, you would say?
That was when Dory first made her first grown-up decision. She was like, I did this. I'm taking responsibility, and this is how I'm going to take care of this because my friends are going to get in trouble. I made this mess. And that's how she decided it had to be solved. And so, and then when she gets arrested, it's right after that. So it's like the Dory at the end of season 2, after we see her push April off, is a new Dory. But we don't really live with that Dory yet because it's only a second of her at the end of season 2.
Sure.
I feel like that decision is the underbelly of so much of what drives Dory, even though it's not said explicitly in season 3.
Wow. Okay, so I think we should pull up this clip in the lead up to Dory pushing April off the ferry. And I think Dory even expresses, well, let's just play it because I think there's a lot happening in the dialogue there.
Why can't you just take your money and be happy and just leave us alone?
I can, and I will. I'll take my money, and I'll be happy. But I will always know who you are and what you did. And And I will never leave you guys alone. Ever. I promise you that. I'm gonna rent a room in every building you live in. I'm gonna sit behind you in whatever bullshit movie you watch. I'm gonna marry someone in your family, no matter how disgusting they are. If your conscience doesn't haunt you, I will forever.
Wow. Okay. So there's a lot happening there. So I think it all gets built up by April threatening Dory in this really heavy way. And I think it's, I mean, Chloe and I laughed at April going, I'm going to marry your family members no matter how ugly they are. Just disgusting they are. So funny. But those are like some real like sinister threats. Like, I am going to rent a room in your building. I am going to like follow you to the movies. I mean, these are all menacing things. But then what's really evident here is that in that moment that Dory decides to push her off, I mean, it's so checkered with fear and anger sort of back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Dory's afraid, and then she turns around, then she gets angry, decides to turn around, push her off. Then is scared, is sort of in disbelief at what she's done. And this is so interesting to hear you talk about this sort of internally discussed as this is the first grown-up decision Dory's made in her entire life.
Yeah. Wow.
It is her way of taking responsibility. She's not taking responsibility for her own decisions because she's saying like, I can't get caught. I'm going to kill April to solve this. It's not that I'm going to turn myself in. Right. But I think the way it was talked about is that she is driven by April's the threat, and April's also threatening Dory's friends. Like, she's got everyone is involved at that point, and the whole show is driven by Dory making a decision to look for Chantal. It's all about Dory's choices.
Yeah.
And I think this is Dory's way of being active in a different way, like of really committing to those life choices she made. I do think she thinks it's grown up, and I think it's why she digs in so hard the next season.
Yeah.
And she also like is in so much denial. Like, she can't ever, like, I think even when she looks confused, when she's looking at April in the water, it's like Dory to herself has to feel innocent.
Wow.
Like the fact that she instantly, as soon as she kills April, her face is like, what did I do? She has to block out the rage part that she just felt a second ago.
Wow. I mean, what was the work that went into balancing those two things though? Like, that's always what goes into Dory. I mean, the whole Dory is supposed to be like, she's supposed to be like a person full of contradictions. And I think the goal with Dory is to show that people are complicated and full of contradictions. And they really, really were intent on not being able to nail Dory down. Like, I think it's actually, it's a very deliberate thing that Dory is the character that doesn't have a sense of purpose, and her identity from the very beginning is unformed. Yes.
Yeah. And that's why she's putting it on to other things. That's why she has to like tie her identity to Chantal. And so throughout the show, you're always supposed to kind of not be able to get a hold of who Dory is exactly, because she does not know. And so you can't be ahead of something that the character herself is not sure of.
That's great. And on the topic of fear, I feel like the shared fear among the four characters, the main characters, is this fear of taking responsibility or of being held accountable to their actions. But with Dory, in this moment that ends up killing someone, finally takes responsibility, and then it is completely destructive.
Yeah, but she's so confident the next season. She takes responsibility. She solves the problems. Her friends are saying, like, everyone's mad at her. She seems like she's gotten everyone in trouble. She does this, and then she spends an entire next season full of confidence.
Wow.
She's not like, I don't think she feels... In season 2, everyone's grappling with guilt, right? And they're afraid of getting caught, and they're afraid of facing who they are to themselves. Dory, I think she's just so emboldened that she did something decisive. I think she feels really good about it. And in her mind, she thinks it's to protect the others.
Wow.
Great. What do we think Elliot, Drew, Portia are afraid of outside of this shared fear of the hammer coming down or whatever?
I think Elliot's afraid of being exposed as to who he really is. Portia's probably afraid of being a bad person. And Drew, like, he seems to be the one who's most viscerally running away.
Yes. But I feel like Drew is the most actively driven by a fear of a set of moral guidelines or rules, or he's the most afraid of moral clarity, sort of sidelining him into being a bad person.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, while being drawn to someone who is so morally questionable. Like he's definitely got like a addiction to
Totally.
Being attached to things that hurt him.
Sure. I do find it great that Elliot, when given the chance to confront himself with his mother, gets a call from Charlie, who gives him this opportunity to run the other way and completely like undo.
Yeah.
Or I mean, you know, Elliot is sort of in some way like inching closer to the fear,
Right.
and like it's this like it could be this huge pivotal moment for him as a character. But I think Charlie is probably the thing that like draws him back into this like this place of, again, rage and fear, right?
Yeah. I think the same way that Chloe finds Republicans fun, Search Party also finds Republicans fun and is very drawn to, it's kind of like the highest priority is to have fun scenes and fun characters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I feel like Search Party deeply believes at its core that that's what makes life meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the same way that Elliot, like there's a lot of talk. We were always, families are really hard to write in a way that's not corny. When you already have met characters and then you have to then meet their families. And the talking about Elliot's family, that was like a long process. And the reason, and then when it finally started to feel like energized was when we were all in the room one day and started talking about, when we got to the point where we realized we could make it outlandish.
Yeah.
Like we were saying he was going to go home, and then I think I said something like, and then he has to get on a boat and like row to the land, and then like something got unlocked, and everyone started just throwing the craziest ideas, and that really opened up so much, and it actually felt the truest to the character. And so I feel like when Charlie calls Elliot, the show itself feels like you don't want to be in this either. You don't want to be in this muck. You want to go back to the spectacle. You want to go back to the fun.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the moment Charlie meets Elliot is at this restaurant where Elliot is introducing Mark to his fake parents.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Charlie is seeing Elliot in this moment of pure artifice. And it's like, hey, oh, you're one of those people. You should come on my show.
Right.
Chloe, why do you think Charlie needs Elliot? Why do you think Charlie is drawn to him?
I think she knows that it'll make good TV. I think it'll, I think he's attractive. I think she sees herself in him probably because they are like weirdly similar in my mind. And
yeah, they're soulmates.
Yeah, I think they're total soulmates, and they're both campy and yeah, it's like, oh, this is like the perfect recipe.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're like funhouse mirror versions of each other.
Absolutely.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know? Absolutely. Okay, great. Wow. Let's close things off by asking, can rage be a positive force? Can it be constructive? Can it build towards something that is helpful or good or?
I think rage can definitely be helpful. Like I think this current rageful moment seems very productive, and
yes,
it's how you're using the rage and what the intention of the rage is. Like if it's Charlie, if it's just to make other people angry so that they stay in the same place, that's weaponizing rage.
Right.
Yeah, I think rage has action to it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the world that we're living in, and like my own life of like, fuck him, you know, and you're like, and you're like on the treadmill. I don't know. You're like, I'm doing me. I don't know. Rage is, it's such a catalyst.
Right.
Fuck him.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yes, and I would agree with you both, but I love that you don't really see examples of that on the show. Because that's not what the ethos of the show is.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it never goes down. It's because it is the norm of it. I think the reason that rage right now in the world seems to be doing something is because I'm calling it a moment. I know it's not going to be. Hopefully, it's a moment that leads to far-reaching change. But
yes,
it was an eruption, and so suddenly you were like, "Oh, this feels different," and I feel active. It's a difference between this moment and Fox News, which is a constant stream of rage.
Right.
And
yes,
Search Party
yes.
is that, where the characters don't know how to feel anything else. And they're afraid of intimacy. They're afraid of vulnerability. They're afraid of being themselves. And anything that will actually like be a healthy choice that will lead them to a next healthy step in their life, they're terrified of, which is the fear.
Wow.
And so their rage is like they're just swimming in it all the time, and they can't get anywhere.
So to visually set this up, I would say that the fear is what's sort of buoying the rage to that level the entire time, because that is sort of the flawed state that all these people are in, which is that they're constantly rageful and fearful. Whereas in order for rage to be productive, you sort of need to have those levels and to have some topography of emotional states. Otherwise, if you're constantly just flatlining, even if it's up here at something so maximalist and crazy and unintelligible, then that's going to be destructive.
Interesting.
Even in Charlie's case or Dory's case.
Yeah, and even because Search Party is the world it is, where everyone's enraged, they don't see like the inverse reflected back at them. They just like go out and like Dory goes for a job interview and there's a woman, the woman screams, like spills her coffee and she's at the same pitch as a Fox News correspondent.
Sure. Totally. Wow.
I mean, this is not the intention of the show, but you could make a case where it's like, you know how when you're in a bad mood, you start yelling you take it out on everything. Like you start yelling at the customer service person. I don't, because I famously am very kind to customer service representatives.
Yes, I know this about you.
Yeah, but it colors your day, and I feel like someone could write a thesis paper about how the main characters, the four of them, are so full of rage that when they go into the world, everyone that we see also acting in rage is just a reflection of the main characters, how they see people.
Oh, interesting.
Perfect. Wow. Well, to close things off, let's just go around. Who are you the most afraid of on the show as a character? I would say I am most afraid of April. Freaks me out, even though she's passed. She just, Phoebe Tyers, what a great performance. But I'm scared for Dory whenever she would talk to April, and even when she sees April in the mirror in season 3. So that's my answer.
Another character that was conceived of, I believe, with the actress in mind.
Phoebe, oh, wonderful.
She's so good.
Yeah.
I find Chantal really scary.
Why?
Because she's just so unaware of she's just so unaware, I feel like.
Yeah.
And that is so dangerous. And she doesn't really have anyone to check her, she just is in this own world that she's creating and getting in trouble. And she's so good. But there's something about how I find her unhinged.
Well, it's funny that she is sort of sidelined, not only in the plot, but in the friendships with Dory and Drew and Elliot and Portia. It's like, she's off on her own and she is doing these irresponsible things. Yeah. Which is dangerous. It's volatile, totally.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, who am I most afraid of? I think it is Dory, because she, someone who doesn't know herself is very scary. They will do anything. Because there's no walls for them to bump up against at all.
Wow.
To check themselves. And she's charming. The package of Dory can accomplish so much. Yeah, right. It's her.
Which is Polly's point.
I relate to Polly.
That's great.
Don't you, we love Polly, right?
I love Polly. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good character and such a good performance. That's a good answer. Dory. Yeah, of course. It's got to be Dory. Well, thank you so much to Chloe and Starlee for joining me in this discussion of fear and rage. Thank you so much. I hope you guys lead fearless and rageless lives in the short term.
Whole
in the
lives.
short term, not in the short term. That's all. Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Wow, I hope that was as cathartic for you as it was for me. Thank you so much to Starlee Kine and Chloe Fineman for joining me today as we discussed the themes of fear and rage on Search Party. Who knew those topics could be so fun? Until next time, I'm Bowen Yang. Join me on this Wednesday, for a new episode in which we'll deep dive into the many themes of Search Party with 2 more special guests. Search Party, the podcast, is a production of HBO Max and iHeartRadio. It's executive produced by Ethan Fixell, produced and written by Jonah Bayer, written and researched by Marissa Brown, and engineered, edited, and mixed by Matt Stillo. If you haven't already subscribed, rated, or reviewed Search Party the podcast, please do so on the iHeartRadio app, HBO Max, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you might get your podcasts. And don't forget to watch Season 4 of Search Party, premiering January 14th only on HBO Max.